Life can feel kind of like a maze. One turn after the other, past that twist and turn and wind. And at every corner, it seems like there's something trying to chase us down, like worry or hurry or exhaustion. We can run faster, collect more, but we still feel empty, still hungry. Yet God designed a different rhythm. A rhythm of rest, a rhythm of trust. In Sabbath, we discover freedom from fear, peace in the waiting, and joy in His presence. This is where the noise fades and where true life begins. Start here.
You guys, everybody has a pet peeve. Do you have a pet peeve? Can I share with you one of mine? Is this a safe space? I hate finding a parking spot. Oh, I hate it, you guys. I would rather park in like Colorado and like walk somewhere than circle around in the parking lot. I don't know why. Tara wants to circle, find that like one spot that's close. I was like, it's not there. Let's just park and walk. And then inevitably, as we're walking, you see that one spot that's right there that if you had just circled, you could have got it. You know what I'm saying? Have you ever circled and tried to find a spot in Element's parking lot on Sunday? Did it actually happen to you today even perhaps? If you don't know me, my name is Buzz, and I serve here as the lead pastor, and we're going to be taking some time on today and Sundays upcoming to talk about what I'm calling making room, and talking about just what the Lord is doing in the life of our church and some of the challenges that we're having as we're trying to reach people for the gospel. And today, the parking lot is under the microscope. And so I want to tell you a couple ways how you can help us make room in the parking lot. Before we do that, I kind of want to tell you why. You know, even in the midst of this building facelift, we are doing it so that we can be the kind of a church who's always looking out and asking God who needs to hear the message of the gospel. Maybe that's through our outreach ministries, or maybe that's through you inviting a friend, or maybe that's somebody just driving by and thinking, I need the Lord. Can I find him at Element Church? And yes, you can. We have two of our core values that even speak to this. You know, Tara mentioned Element Connect, where we'll get into this. We even hung them on the wall back there. But there's two values that are really driving why we want to make some room in our ministry heading in to the fall. And the first of these values is what we call, if only for the one. Now, this is taken from Jesus' teaching about the lost sheep, where Jesus says, I might have 99 sheep in the flock, but I would leave those if there was just even one who still needed my love and my care. We want to model that as a church. We want to not be thinking like who's at church and who knows Jesus. We want to be thinking, who is the one that I know, the at least one that I know that needs to hear the gospel. And then we want to be the kind of a church where when you come, you feel welcome. You might have even seen the black chair that's around here in the auditorium. Almost all of them are red except for that one. And that chair is set aside to remind us that there is a person who needs to be in that chair hearing the gospel. Who's the one on your heart who needs to be connected to Jesus? We want you to find them and bring them here. And I want them to have a parking spot when they come, you know? Because that's our second value. We want to be a place to call home, where you feel planned for and prayed for and valued and welcomed, not as a stranger or as a guest, but as a part of the family. And the parking lot has a place to play there. I mean, can you imagine coming and knowing that you need Jesus in your life, and then you just circle and try to find a parking spot, and then you think, this church must not want me. Or worse, God must not have space for me. And then you just keep on going down the street. And I don't want that to happen. I want to be the kind of a church that finds the one who's far from God and then creates a space where they can become not strangers any longer, but family together. And that's why we're going to be making some room. Now, this is exciting news. I actually think of these as exciting and not as problems, because the Lord is doing a mighty work in our community. I mean, we are hearing stories of life change. In fact, last Sunday, or 2 Sundays ago, rather, we baptized more than 22 people who wanted to go public with their faith in Jesus Christ. It's amazing. It's amazing. You know, year to date, we don't know exactly how many, but we've had more than 50 people say, I want to accept Jesus Christ as my personal Lord and Savior in our Sunday services year to date. It's amazing. As more people are finding God, that means that there's more people in our Sunday services. In fact, this year compared to last year, we have almost 20% more people attending on Sundays. Just last week, we had more than 200 kids in our kids ministry, which we haven't seen 200 kids since Easter Sunday last year. And with more people comes more life and more abundance and more joy, but also more inconvenience. You know what I'm talking about? So we want to make some room so that people can encounter Jesus Christ. That's why we are doing it. So I want to share with you a couple ways how you can do it. The first of them is on your seat. We have this thing called our Connections Team Ministry Guide. Now, our Connections Ministry just does what it says. It helps people connect into the life of the church. These are the auditorium team who's helping you find a seat, especially when it's full. It's our parking lot team who's greeting you with love and a smile and helping you find that elusive space that I've been talking about. It's our New Here team when you come and get a tour, a friendly face to show you around the church and help you get your kids checked in and that kind of a thing. It's really our first line of showing people that you are loved, you're wanted. If you're the if only for the one that somebody was praying for, I'll stand in the gap and make sure that you experience Christ here. Our connections team is amazing. They are fantastic people who serve faithfully, and they just need some reinforcements, you guys, particularly at this time slot, the 11 a.m. service. And so if that's the kind of thing that you think God might be leading you to do, there's a QR code in the top of the page. And if you're new to our church and thinking about what's my best way to get involved today, my number one recommendation for you is to join our Connections ministry team. Make this place home. Would you prayerfully consider doing that? The second way we can make room is like literally making room in the parking lot. So I want to share with you some tips and tricks because I can always find a parking lot spot. You know why? Well, firstly, I get here super early. Hey-o. But secondly, I park on the north side of the building, which is kind of what we call our volunteer parking lot. And so if you are a volunteer in any serve team and you know how that works and how to get in the volunteer entrance, I'd encourage you to park on the north side, even on weeks that you don't serve. That will create some space in our main parking lot for our first-time guests, simply just by moving your car to the north side of the church. Consider doing that. You know, we're very blessed in our facility. God has been stupendously faithful to us. We have a lot of parking spaces, but we're pretty much out of convenient, easy to find parking spaces. So if you want to inconvenience yourself and park on the north side, we would really love that. Another thing that can happen is families bring more than one car to church. Maybe you come early and serve, or maybe you have some teenage drivers and you end up with 2 or 3 or even 4 cars in our parking lot. It's amazing. We want you here. Especially if that's you, consider either carpooling or parking on the north side to create some space for our first-time guests and people who are far from God to find easy space in that parking lot. The other thing that we can all do is help out with the traffic flow in the parking lot. And so what the parking team is asking is that you enter into our parking lot off of Carlson Avenue, but that you do not exit onto Carlson Avenue. If we can keep Carlson just as an entrance, that will free us up to leave literally anywhere else. We have 2 exits onto Crow, 2 exits onto Weaver, especially if you hang a ride on Crow and get up to Story. That's my pro tip to get you out of here faster, just to create some space in our parking lot. Particularly as we change between the 9 and 11 services, it can feel like a bit of a traffic jam. So if you enter on Carlson, exit anywhere else, it'll feel like there's more room for people who want to hear the voice of the Lord to find it conveniently and easily. Okay, so let's make some room around here. Number 1, by joining the Connections ministry team. Number 2, carpooling or putting our car on the north side of the building. And number 3, exiting not on Carlson, literally anywhere else. We don't even care if you pop the curb. Just don't drive onto Carlson, please. It's amazing what God is doing. It's amazing to be a part of it. Thank you for being here to be a part of it. In fact, you might be one of those people who is new and doesn't really know what I'm talking about with increasing numbers of people. And that's because you are an answer to our prayers. You are not an inconvenience. You are not somebody who's in my way. You are somebody we've been asking God to show us how can we connect you to a lifelong relationship in Jesus Christ. Thank you for being here. We hope there's many more like you coming just around the corner. All right, so let's turn the page and get into our Start Here series that we've been in for the last couple of weeks, where we're reflecting on the principle of making our spiritual life a priority. And our key question for this series has been, is your spiritual life an afterthought, or is it a priority? Our key passage for this series is Jesus' teaching in Matthew chapter 6 about the relationship between work and rest and worship. And we'll have it for you on the screens here again today. Out of the NIV, Jesus teaches us this. He says, therefore I tell you, do not worry about your life or what you will eat or drink or about your body or what you will wear. Is not life more than food and the body more than clothes? But seek first. In other words, start here with his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. Therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. Throughout the series, we're going to be unpacking Jesus' solution to this worry-filled, overfull, anxious, busy way of living called the Sabbath practice. And today I want to tell you how the Sabbath practice is God's way of producing in you a spiritual life which lasts, something that endures. Don't you want that? Don't you want a spiritual life which lasts? persists. A passage on my heart for the last several weeks has been Isaiah chapter 40, verse 8. Isaiah writes that the grass withers, the flower fades, the word of our God will stand forever. Endures, it lasts. I was thinking about this last week even, and this is why I brought my coffee mug up here. This is my favorite coffee mug, you guys. I love it. You thought I was going to drink out of it, and I might, but I brought it up here to teach you something, because that's the point of coffee mugs, isn't it? To hold your drink. I have green tea in here right now, and I want it to be hot. It's doing its job. Do I want an iced drink in here? No, thank you. I'm not a barbarian. Hello. Right, but this is not the only purpose of this particular cup, to keep my drink hot. This is a souvenir, a remembrance of an important time in my life. Because last summer we went on vacation and we took the kids to Disneyland and it was unbelievable. And I thought, I don't need a souvenir. I have spent plenty of money. But Disney is very good at helping you understand you could actually spend more money if you wanted to, So there it was in the checkout line, a Star Wars travel coffee mug only available at Disney. And I said, man, it doesn't matter what it costs. I'm gonna get it because my kids are growing up and their life is dwindling in our home, and I wanna remember the times we spent together. Let me get this mug. I wanted it to last. I don't wanna buy another one. I want this one. I want it to last, and I want it to endure. A few months ago, I went to Starbucks here locally, and you know how they put the sticker on your drink? I was kind of like peeling that label off, and I scratched it right here on the blue moon. You see that? Thank you for your compassion. It is a very painful moment for me. It was wearing out. Then around the top, this snow speeder that I love, Star Wars Episode 5, amazing. It's starting to wear out and fade away. And there's like gunk around the top. I don't even know how that happened. This thing that I wanted to last for forever, that I wanted to be a central piece of my memories with my family, it was just wearing out. It was just getting old. This thing I thought that I never would have to replace, it just began to feel old hat, and do I even really want it anymore? And do you ever feel like that with your spiritual life? At this thing that was a priority to you, that you were so excited to get, a priceless treasure that you can't get just anywhere, you're so focused on keeping it and celebrating it and enduring with it. It's the central focus of your life, but then one day it gets a scratch, a dent, a wearing out. It feels a little old hat. You have a hard time imagining this thing being the center of your life ever again. You ever feel like that? Because I don't want that kind of spiritual life. I don't want something that's a surge of adrenaline on day one and then fades over time. I want a spiritual life which lasts. I want to live out Isaiah chapter 40, that even though the grass might wither and the flower might fade, the word of God stands forever. I want that true in my life. And so today I want to share with you 3 ways I believe that we can produce a spiritual life which lasts. We have the same options whether we're approaching our spiritual life or our coffee mugs or whatever. How do we make something last? How do we make something endure? Well, number 1, we can protect it. How do we make sure that something will actually last? We protect it. I mean, that's what I do to this coffee cup. I knew I wanted it to last, and so I made some rules, some policies, and some procedures that we put into place in our home to help make my cup last a long time. Because as a family of 6, and really 7 if you count Heather, my mother-in-law, really 8 if you count the dog who destroys everything, you got to put some rules into place. And so rule number 1, this cup does not go in the dishwasher, all right? Everything else in our house goes in the dishwasher because it's easy. Not this cup. I will even hand wash it because I want it to be safe. I'm gonna protect it. Rule number 2, it doesn't go in the cupboard with the other cups. I don't want it jostled around like it doesn't matter. In fact, I've carved out a place for honor for it on my shelf next to my barbecue stuff, the highest honor that I can give anything in my household. And then third, and perhaps this goes without saying, but let's go ahead and say it anyway, only Dad gets to use this cup, right? We are protecting it. I'm gonna keep it safe from the washer. I'm gonna give it a special place to live, and I'm gonna reserve it just for me. And that care, that protection, these policies are an outgrowth of the measure of care and love that I have for this mug. If I didn't care, I wouldn't care. If I didn't want it, if it didn't matter, I wouldn't have worried about protecting it. But I want this thing to last, and so I protect it. And so let me ask you this. Do you treat your spiritual life the same way? Do you protect it? Do you protect the time you have to invest in your spiritual life? Is your spiritual life something precious to you, something special to you, something you only hand wash, so to speak, something you have a special place in your week for, so to speak, something you don't entrust to anybody else that you say, I will take responsibility for this? Or is your spiritual life just kind of jumbled in the cabinet with everything else in your life? Is it chucked into the dishwasher as an afterthought? Whatever's fast, please just hurry. Why would we spend more time thinking about the care of our souvenir coffee mugs than we do our spiritual life? These mugs wither, they fade, but our spiritual life can last for forever. I want a spiritual life which lasts, and therefore I want to work to protect it. And you guys, that's what the Sabbath practice is. It's a marking out of time in our week, protecting that time so that you can invest it into your spiritual life. You're putting a fence around your time, saying like, this time doesn't belong in the cabinet with the other time. This one deserves special care, special attention as a priority and not as an afterthought. So I think that the Sabbath practice is God's way of building in us a spiritual life which lasts. We protect those things we want to last. Do you protect the time you invest in your spiritual life? Let me say here, protecting something does not mean neglecting something, Because one way I could have ensured my mug didn't wear out is just by putting it on the shelf and never touching it again. Maybe get one of those shadow box things from Hobby Lobby and hang it on my wall, or wrap it in bubble wrap and hide it in the basement. I mean, it would last, but it'd be neglected. It wouldn't be used. It wouldn't bring me joy. It wouldn't serve its purpose as a reminder of time with my family. It would have just been shoved to the side. Man, we're tempted to do that with our spiritual life too, aren't we? Tempted to push it to the side for worry that it will get hurt, so to speak. Like if we can't do it perfectly, I won't even try. I don't want to do it wrong or break it, so to speak. I don't want to do it in a way that God will be upset or disappointed in me. And so we put our spiritual life on the shelf and we hope it doesn't break. And I think we live like this because we intuitively know that when Isaiah 40 is talking about flowers and grass, he's really talking about us and our souls. And look at how he puts it in the rest of the chapter if we scoot back up to verse 3. Isaiah tells us that a voice cries out, in the wilderness, prepare the way of the Lord. Make straight in the desert a highway for our God. Every valley shall be lifted up. Every mountain and hill will be made low. Uneven ground will become level. Rough places a plain, and the glory of the Lord shall be revealed. All flesh shall see it together, for the mouth of the Lord has spoken. A voice says, cry, and I say, what shall I cry? All flesh is grass. All its beauty is like the flower of the field. The grass withers, the flower fades when the breath of the Lord blows on it. Surely people are grass. The grass withers, flower fades, but the word of our God will stand forever. Because at the end of the day, he's saying that our lives are fragile compared to the work of God in our life. And so we need to protect it. Not neglect it, but protect it as a priority. And this is the second thing too, you guys, that makes things last. Firstly, we protect them. And secondly, we use things for their intended purpose. Makes it last, right? What's this drink for? Hot drinks. That's it. It's not for blending in our blend tech. It's not for putting into the microwave. Who would do that? It is not for putting it in the oven. If you do that, the mug doesn't last. We have a different mug that goes in the microwave. We have a different dish that goes in the oven. We have a different thing that goes on the blender. But imagine if, and to be clear, this is a fictional story. Imagine if one of our boys was running late and needed a water bottle for school. They run cross country, they need to stay hydrated, and there's no water bottles to hand. But imagine if one of our sons thought, there's a shelf in there where there's always a mug. Let me just grab that mug. Let me throw it in my bag, and then I'll jam it into my locker, and I'll get it out hours later. He said, you know what? Dad even has lovingly hand-washed that mug. Let me just take it to school and grab it real quick. And then they throw it in their bag, and they hustle out the door. Will that help the mug last longer? Or will it help the mug wear out faster? Of course, it wears out because this mug was not created for the purpose of a gym water bottle. There are bottles that are designed that way. Use those. And so if we want a spiritual life which lasts, we have to use our life for its intended purpose, which is to say, our life's purpose is to pursue Jesus. That's our purpose. When we live according to that purpose, we can have a spiritual life which lasts. When we live not according to that purpose, we wear out faster, don't we? You know, our Lord put it this way in his last week on earth in John chapter 15. You know that song, Shelley Let Us In, Abide? It's taken from this chapter, John 15, about living according to our purpose and how can we last a long time. Jesus tells us this. He says, I am the true vine. My Father is the vine dresser. Every branch in me that does not bear fruit, he takes it away. Every branch that does bear fruit, he prunes, that it might bear more fruit. Already you're clean because of the word I've spoken to you, and so abide in me, and I in you. As the branch cannot bear fruit by itself unless it abides in the vine, neither can you unless you abide in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. Whoever abides in me and I in him, he it is that bears much fruit. For apart from me, you can do nothing. If anyone does not abide in me, he's thrown away like a branch and it withers. The branches are gathered, it's thrown into the fire and burned. But if you abide in me and my words abide in you, ask whatever you wish, it will be done for you. By this my Father is glorified, that you bear much fruit and so prove to be my disciples. Here Jesus is using a powerful image, even more powerful than my stupendous coffee mug image that I'm using today. He's talking about a vine and branches. And did you see what happened to those branches which were not living according to their purpose? Because the purpose of a branch is to bear fruit, like to grow grapes so that we can eat them. And if it's not doing that, what happens to that branch? It's cut off. It's not good for anything except to be taken outside and burned. It's almost a rephrasing, isn't it? I think on purpose by Jesus of Isaiah chapter 40. The grass withers, the flower fades, the vine dries up. He's talking about a spiritual life which lasts versus one that wears out and gives up and isn't enduring. You know, we might even sum up John 15 this way. He's saying our purpose is to bear fruit by being connected to the vine. That's our purpose. If we want a spiritual life which lasts, we have to bear fruit by being connected to the vine. If you stay connected to me, Jesus says, you'll bear fruit. Apart from me, Jesus says, you can do nothing. You'll live in Isaiah 40 kind of a life, Jesus says, where your life will burn up like the grass, it will wither like the flowers. I mean, you can try to live life on your own. In Matthew 6, where Jesus taught us about don't worry, he says the pagans run around after eating and drinking and clothes and what to wear and work. We can try living life like that, but we'll burn up. Grass withers, flower fades, but the word of the Lord stands forever. I want to take him at his word and live more like the birds of the air, trusting that an eternal God can care for me better than I can care for myself. I want to live like the lilies of the field, knowing that my time is temporary, that one day I will fade away, and yet I will trust God in the midst of it anyway. I want to live like these fruitful branches in John 15. I want to stay connected to the vine as my true purpose in life. So if we want to live like this with the spiritual life that lasts, any aspect of our life that doesn't bear fruit has got to be pruned. That's what Jesus says, isn't it? Any branch that doesn't bear fruit, cut it off and throw it away. And I think this includes our time, how we spend our time. Is there a use of time that doesn't bear fruit? Prune it, cut it off, throw it away. I've said the Sabbath practice is God's way of producing a spiritual life that lasts. And so what weeds are choking that out, or what's creeping into that time instead? If we are marking out time to protect, to spend with Jesus, and something else is growing there, cut it off, throw it away. It's good for nothing except to be burned. If you want a spiritual life that lasts, prune everything else. You know, for some of us today, we need to prune things because they are actively harmful or sinful in our lives. Some of us aren't marking Sabbath, for example, because we're too busy going out drinking. experiencing that temporary high, but exchanging that for the eternal, steadfast life with Jesus. We need to cut that off. Some of us aren't pursuing Jesus because we're too busy trying to find this next night's companionship. We need to cut that off. It's good for nothing except to be tossed out and to be burned. And for others of us, there's weeds creeping into our time. Maybe we don't pursue Jesus just because we're too busy with fantasy football and watching sports. Man, cut that off. Throw it out. Some of us are too busy worrying about money. We can't focus on Jesus in our lives. Cut that out. Prune it off. Make space for your soul to grow. So what is it for you? What are the aspects in your soul that need to be pruned and cleaned so that you can grow a fruitful life with Jesus? Now, pruning can be painful, but he's doing it to you to try to make you more fruitful. You guys will bear fruit. We'll have a spiritual life which lasts when we pursue Jesus as a priority. So stay connected to the vine. Cut off everything that keeps you from doing it. Mark out time as a priority to stay rooted in him. This is how you can grow a spiritual life which lasts. So we've said, if you want something that lasts, you can protect it. If you want something that lasts, you have to use it for its intended purpose. And the third way to make things last, I believe, is to get a quality item. We've all made this mistake, haven't we? That we try to save some money on the front end and we buy a cheaper version, then it breaks and it wears out. You buy another one and you should have just bought the good one in the first place. This ever happened to you? That's what I thought I was doing with this mug. Got a nice one, a name brand one. I wanted it to last, and even so, inside of 2 years, it's wearing out. We're doing that with our building facelift here at the church as well. And we decided as a team that we would rather do it right than do it fast. And so we're waiting on things instead of doing it cheaply. So we want a building that lasts. So let's get a quality one. So whether it's our paint or our woodwork or our cabinet or our graphics, it's all quality. And yeah, it's taken time, longer than we thought or planned, but we want a building which lasts. You know, furniture even. We got quality furniture. We want it to last. But here's the thing, you guys. No matter how good it is, no matter how quality you get or how much money you spend on a thing, it wears out eventually, doesn't it? No matter how hard you try, material stuff just does not last. The grass withers, the flower fades, and so does everything else in life. We had this new furniture installed in the cafe, like 3 Sundays ago. First Sunday, I loved it, amazing. Came back for Monday staff meeting, sat in one of those brown chairs, and what did I find on the arm of the chair? Like a deep scratch on this quality chair that we wanted to last for a decade. Grass withers, the flower fades, the chair gets scratched, the coffee mug wears out. But what stands for forever? And only the word of the Lord. You know, Mark, the gospel writer, he knew this. In fact, he even quotes Isaiah chapter 40 as he opens his gospel, his story of Jesus' life, to show us that God, as he came to earth for us, is the thing which endures. He writes it this way in Mark chapter 1. He says, the beginning of the gospel of Jesus Christ, the Son of God, as it is written in Isaiah the prophet, behold, I send my messenger before your face, who will prepare your way. The voice of one crying in the wilderness, prepare the way of the Lord, make his path straight. You see those echoes of Isaiah? Because Mark is trying to put it this way, I think. Grass withers, flower fades, Jesus stands for forever. There's one kingdom that lasts, you guys, the kingdom of Jesus Christ. There's one spiritual life that lasts, the life that's focused on Jesus Christ as Savior. That's it. I'm saying today that Sabbath is God's way of producing a spiritual life which lasts, protecting your time to invest it in your spiritual life. But on its own, marking out time is not enough. Protecting time or pruning waste of time things out of your life that don't serve you, that's not enough. Because if it were, we wouldn't need to turn to Jesus. We can look to any of those efficiency gurus online. It's not enough to protect your time. You have to be focused on Jesus because he is the king who lasts. His is the kingdom which endures for forever. Gospel of Matthew calls him the pearl of great price. And when you find him, you should sell all you have and invest in that thing. Get a quality one. Buy the kingdom that endures for forever. Quality stuff costs a lot, doesn't it? Jesus paid a lot for your relationship with him, even shedding his very own blood on the cross. If you want to purchase a life that matters, there's no price bigger than what Jesus paid. John sums it up this way for us in John 10:10. He says that the thief comes to steal, kill, destroy, but Jesus has come that you might have life and have it to the fullest. So the avenue I believe Jesus is inviting us into to take him at his word and live out his teaching is to protect that time we spend with him, this thing we call Sabbath. I don't want to be like one riddled with worry and running around like everybody else does. I want to live like the birds. I want to live like the lilies. I want to trust in eternal God, even with my time. And so that's our weekly practice for today. How can we build a spiritual life which lasts? Well, this week, protect your time for its intended purpose, spending it with him. Find a way to mark a Sabbath with your community. As a Sabbath practice is just only that. It's marking out time with intention to spend with God. You're off to a great start today, by the way. Whether you're here with us in the room or online, we're starting with Sabbath worship. That's amazing. How can we keep that going? How can we build that in as a regular rhythm of what we do? Don't let vines creep in or other things steal it. Protect the time that you're spending with God. It's his way of building into you a spiritual life which lasts.